So as promised the other week before singles, I did election. Now I'm going to do the other political stalwart that Steve hasn't seen, or I haven't seen for that matter. Warren Beatty's 1998 film Bulworth, which is pretty phenomenal. I don't know why I'd never seen this, or really no one's ever seen this. Steve's going to talk in the episode about how there's no info on the internet about it at all. The little research that I did after we recorded, yeah, I saw even Fox didn't know what this was. He basically, Beatty that is, abused their contract he had with them for Dick Tracy and got Final Cut and basically blindly got them to pay for something that is just a biting satire and really criminally underrated. And that's the beauty of this show. We, sometimes watch things that no one knows is a classic. But hope you enjoy it. Welcome to Get to Cinema. I'm Brian Gillis.
And I'm Steven Maltmanex.
Like most people, we love going to the theater and catching the latest releases. However, it can sadly put a big dent in your wallet.
Fortunately, living in the digital age makes the viewing possibilities endless from the comforts of home.
Many of these films that you can see right from your couch, we're ashamed to say we missed, despite labeling ourselves cinephiles.
So join us as one or both of us cross off a title from our list of shame.
It can be an all-time essential classic,
or an underrated piece of cinema that's worth giving a shot.
Hell, it might just be some trashy film we want the other's opinion on. So sit tight and join us as we pay off our debts, $1 at a time. So this is the episode where we rhyme, and we're gonna do it a hell of a time, and we're gonna talk points, and not at now. And now you messed up my rhyme, and I don't how. And this is how we milk it. This is cow.
No, really?
That's how you reacted to the movie, right?
To sit back? Well, you know what?
When Warren Beatty just out of fucking nowhere turns black and rhymes for half the movie.
Yeah, half the movie. Like the first time, it's funny. The second time, it's okay. It does get a little bit repetitive. I mean, that's
okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's only because his cadence is really bad. But give him a break. He fucking wrote this thing, produced it, directed it. He stars in it,
and there's a lot of fair points in there.
And it is a great movie. If you've never heard of this, you've probably heard the song that it's famous for, "Ghetto Superstar," which is actually played during the film and in a pretty fun sequence. But this is the hood Dr. Seuss meets Mr. Smith Goes to Washington in a post-Rodney King America. It is very topical. It came out in 1998, but it's talking about the 96 presidential and senatorial elections, in particular the primary that's going on at the time. I don't know why it took this long to see this. I remember the first time I was aware of the film, my dad had it on VHS. I just saw the cover. It's a very iconic poster with, him coming out of the person's mouth. And so for the longest time, I thought this was like a creature feature or something along those lines. No, just by that cover work
I can
alone.
see that, yeah, because it's a weird cover. Like I haven't had, I've not looked at it very up close, but seeing it on Amazon,
even
just
on
that
Netflix,
little like icon that they have there, I can tell that there's something really, really
pretty
weird on
about
there.
it.
Yeah, so I have no idea what it is. I think I saw a clip of this in 298 or 299. I don't remember, but I think
possible maybe in relation to diegetic and non-diegetic music or something. like that.
Something like that. I think it was one of the interviewing scenes though, when he's on TV and he's just, he's dressed wearing
amazing,
a beanie.
yeah.
Yeah, he's just
like fuck Bernie,
Yeah.
like fuck Bernie Sanders, 100%. Like this, if we had Bulworth running for president, I would register to vote for him. Like there's something, even still, almost 20 years removed now.
See, that's the thing, is that this is 20 years removed, and you can still say a lot of this stuff today, which,
or they should be saying it anyway.
But which is a problem, though. I mean, well, you do have Bernie Sanders saying it,
and we
at least to some extent, and then you're reading about this stuff on Facebook all the time. So, I mean, it's not fair to criticize the movie for that, but it's basically just it's part of an echo chamber just in this whole other conversation. And it's really kind of annoying to see a problem that's happening today continue 20 years from now. 20 years later, it's still going on.
One of the big topics in this film, and it's mentioned multiple times, is why don't we have any black leaders anymore? I mean, this is like right after the O.J. Simpson trial. America was embracing the media culture that we've become, or everything's social media driven, and oh, I saw it on Twitter, or oh, Johnny Depp's a wife beater now because Amber Heard posted a picture without her makeup on. And obviously, we do have black leaders. Barack Obama's leaving office in a second term in the coming months. So a couple of things kind of changed, but not really.
No.
Like Colin Powell's mentioned this movie. He was like one of the only black leaders, basically, besides Condoleezza Rice, up until, our current president was elected. And it's scary that a white Hollywood icon made this movie.
Well, but in 1998, that's probably the only way that could have gotten made, too.
Definitely. But he says so much here. Warren Beatty says so much shit that it makes sense to me that he didn't have to make another film until this year. He has that Howard Hughes one coming out.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be awards contender, probably going to be November, December release. But he didn't have anything to say because he already said it. And it still is important. And maybe people just didn't listen to it. People didn't watch this movie. But out of everything that I've picked on this show, I think this is the most important watch. I'd buy this for $1. I think everyone should see it, especially this electoral year. Just something that's on Netflix that really everyone needs to watch. Despite how fucking zany it is and wacky, and we'll talk about it in a second, but just the message at its core, what's important here, it should be yelled. It really is amazing.
Well, see,
this is under the radar.
I am with you, at least, that it should be watched just for the sake of this message. As far as it being yelled, this message has been yelled so many times that I'm becoming numb to it, and that's a personal problem. Yeah, for
but
sure.
It's packaged here in really fun entertainment.
But I think for the movie, it felt repetitive, like I was beaten over the head with it constantly. At the end of the day, I think the movie is okay, but that's really me looking at it through a modern context, because there's just no way I can look at this thinking 1998. I see.
Mm-hmm.
I still see this working today. I still think of today, even though there are no cell phones. It still felt
minor
like 2016.
cell phone usage.
Yeah, I know. So I mean, that is my bias right away. Is just I cannot look at it any other way. And I feel like Chirac was effective in similar ways, but this, if I'm judging it strictly as a movie, the rapping is kind of repetitive. I laughed the first time, but then it keeps going, and it's just repeating the same point over and over and over again.
I said that is because of Warren Beatty's failings as an MC.
Okay, no,
he needed to be coached.
That's not me necessarily criticizing him. I mean, he does not fit as an MC. He has an established reputation, so at this point, how do you picture him just suddenly switching over to MC? But I think it's kind of the magic. It's really just the topics that this covers, and just this conversation being shouted so many times that I feel so incredibly numb to it, and that's a different problem. But I feel like this movie should be seen, but I don't know, yelled. I think that for the sake of our time right now, there should be a better solution, because all we're doing is just yelling shit and nothing's getting done, and I think that's a problem.
I think what helped me out with this view is that I didn't know the day we were recording, so I actually watched the first half of this a couple of days ago. So I already got into some of the rapping stuff, and I stopped it once I knew that we weren't recording, and I started at the beginning again today. I was gonna just start where I left off, but I decided to give it another watch, and when I was already desensitized to how over the top it gets, it was a much better experience. I wasn't shocked. It was like, oh, okay. Because this movie is Warren Beatty becoming black. Let's do a rundown of things that happen in chronological order. Here's the film, basically. It's not something that you can really ruin. It begins with this guy who's running to be reelected to California Democratic senator, taking a $10 million health insurance policy out on his life, and then also calling a hit for his own life, too. So he's trying a way to cash in, get his daughter some money.
And then it gets really fucking crazy.
So he goes to this black church, and because he's sleep deprived and he hasn't ate in a while and he's drunk, he just speaks the truth, which is something a politician never does. With Bernie Sanders notwithstanding, but even still, who knows what his agenda is, and that's kind of his campaign anyway. But he's at this black church in South Central, and then his limo goes to KFC. he starts using black slang like Jimmy, Macking, Nappy, Dugout, I'm gonna hit it. The Ghetto Superstar plays when he's at this club. He falls in love with Halle Berry. He starts like hitting a blunt. He begins rapping. He starts DJing for a little bit. He steals a lowrider. He starts wearing street gear like Tommy Hilfiger. And it just, like, it's the craziest metamorphosis I've ever seen from an established actor. Like, I'm surprised this didn't win, like, a Golden Raspberry or something.
Well, this was a huge controversy at the time. And, I can understand why, especially, I mean, these points being made in 1998, Mm-hmm. And although I don't have the, I was like 7 when this came out, so
yeah.
I do not have the political climate of that just fresh in my mind. I was completely oblivious to it.
Just keep this in mind. Bill Clinton
I
was
wasn't
getting...
even in the country, so...
This movie came out when Bill Clinton was getting serviced by Monica Lewinsky.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure this film got overpowered because of that. Maybe that whole scandal was kind of set up so the media didn't talk about this film.
It's funny, though. I mean, there are pieces out there on why this is so controversial that are online that were written in 1998. I think there was one from the New York Times, but I didn't read it because, well, we have to record now, but I tried skimming through Wikipedia. All it says is that, hey, there was controversy when this movie came out, and that's kind of it. There's really little information out there.
Like, I have to assume reading that New York Times commentary is kind of bullshit now because...
Oh, yeah, but I mean, at least you would get an understanding of what it is that they're talking about. And
perhaps,
how, yeah.
But it might just be an op-ed about why it's kind of fucked up for this white actor to be saying nigga and jigaboo and stuff like that on screen. That's probably what the issue is. It was probably a whitewashing thing. And if so, and rightfully so... I can understand it, but it's more than that. It's kind of about... Because there's this weird disconnect that happens, especially in the final, 10 minutes or so. Because he goes on this whole, binge where he's not sleeping, like we said, and eating, and he's malnourished. And that's why he goes into, like, this stupor where he becomes black and just everything about him changed. Like
it's just everything, and the fact that he's just tired of all the bullshit.
He's tired,
and he just snaps.
He definitely just, his wife doesn't love him, his kid doesn't love him, like he's getting pressured for like these bailouts and pork barrel spending and all this stuff, and he finally sleeps after being followed by C-SPAN for 24 hours. So all this stuff that he's doing is going to be on TV, and he gets to sleep, and it seems like he sleeps for like 3 days or something. He gets elected while he's asleep, okay? And when he wakes up, he's not the same person anymore. He's the guy he was before the movie started. He's wearing his great suit with the red power tie and shaking hands and kissing babies and all this stuff. And you get left with this note without ruining how it ends yet. I was wondering, does he remember what he did? Does he remember what he was saying? Does he know why he was elected in office once again? Or was it all a dream?
No, I got the sense that he knew exactly what was going on. And it was ending on a happy note, too. At least...
until tragedy strikes.
I mean, that's where it seemed to be going. And, I think he was very much aware of the impact that he had. I don't think he had a plan of where he was going to go after that. But I think he was at least aware of what happened. It's not like he was oblivious to everything.
He's doing so much here in his, I don't know, I guess you could say his leave of absence or leave of blackness. I don't know. It's like there's this quote. He's like, if you don't, it's one of the first things he says when he's at that church. If you don't put down the malt liquor and chicken wings and support sport by anyone but running. Anyway, no support. Put down the malt liquor and chicken wings and support anyone but a running back who stabbed his wife. Nothing's gonna change. And everyone in the church is like, what? And Chris Platt has to pull a fire alarm, so everyone get the fuck out of there. Talking about him, this has a great supporting cast, and at the time they were unknowns. You got Don Cheadle and Halle Berry, Chris Molina, who went on to be huge on The West Wing. It was like at the same time as this. Sean Astin with like no dialogue. Mm-hmm. He's just a cameraman. You got Wendell Pierce from The Wire.
The year before Lord of the Rings too.
Yeah.
Before they started shooting, yeah.
This is his interim between like this is the Rudy days. This is when he wasn't anything. It was like between him being a child actor and established once, and he's not established anymore. It's like no one knows who he is anymore. He's in the do-over. We'll talk about that in our dollar reviews. But here's another quote: "Everybody's got to keep fucking until we're the same color." Like he goes on this tirade on like a live feed on national television where he's talking about racism, and it's not black and white. He's like, "Fuck, it's the rich and the poor, and the only way we can get on top of them is if we keep getting on top of each other." And he's saying this, mind you, mid-rap.
That's probably the best point that movie makes, is that hey, this is not going to stop until we're all able to look past our differences to the point where we just don't see anything anymore.
It's like the America 2.0 where we're all the same, literally.
Literally, yeah.
I mean, that's where we're moving with the global economy. With things like the internet and the way media has changed in the last 10 years, we're becoming aware of our differences and kind of supporting that. Like there's big things that are happening on the internet, especially like
okay, yeah, but in the case of the internet, we're also hiding behind a screen and we're just shouting at people over bullshit.
It's not the best medium for this stuff.
It's not necessarily like motivated.
It does
out of
progress
anger.
the conversation,
it's just
though.
To piss people off on purpose.
I mean, the fact that like some of his messages here aren't relatable anymore. Like he says this thing, about networks being controlled by not the politicians, but the people with the money, and the people with the money are only going to elect the politicians they want, and that's the only way you can get on TV. And it's like, well, not so much anymore. You can be on Twitter or Instagram, and you can make your own cult following. You could be a Vine star. You can be a YouTuber. And so that's kind of it's a small digression, but his message is still true. The politicians that get the support in the first place, it's because in the post JFK era, you have to look good, you have to speak well, you have to have a handsome family, you have to have a good upbringing, you have to be articulate, all these things. Before that, it was just you had to know what the fuck you were talking about, and that doesn't matter anymore. Look at Donald Trump. Like, as long as you have all of the other things, you can become president, or a senator in this case. But there's a lot here that I think people don't talk about anymore, or it's been neglected or just overlooked.
I'm not sure, because I see this stuff talked about all the time.
Like similar things, but
maybe not necessarily dead on, but it's just it might be a facet of the conversation. But I mean, like I said, this is my problem. I just feel like so burnt out on a ton of this stuff that it's not clicking with me anymore. It literally is an echo chamber, and I'm just tired of hearing it. But I mean, that's not me saying that the movie is not worth checking out. It's just that it really just depresses me that I see that this was talked about even back then, and yet very little has happened. I'm sure, very
stuff
very
like Colors and Ricochet. And,
well, I mean, you could look back at like everything. Even Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. You can point to that and go like, yeah, well, nothing's really different, but this is eerily close to now. That's the thing. You
have this. People loved NWA, Straight Outta Compton. People really love that movie. They full support. If this movie came out last year, oh my god, people would go ape shit. Like, there's that ice cream cone scene, which is stronger than any scene in Straight Outta Compton, in my opinion. Like the way that goes, the way that's handled, the way it's shot too.
I mean, just if you're in the crowd with that, then they would applaud it. And there were reactions out loud during Straight Outta Compton when I saw it. We were both at Thursday night screenings for that, I think.
No, I don't
know. I was at
I caught it Friday.
Yeah, I was
at
a packed,
Friday afternoon.
Thursday screening the night that that it premiered. Yeah.
Yeah, I tried to go with Thursday. I couldn't get in.
Yeah, no, I mean that ice cream scene would definitely get a reaction from a packed crowd.
It's a whole police brutality and ice cream brutality, mind you, sequence. But yeah, just it tackles like the reality of how black kids have to enter the drug world because white privilege blinds everyone else from accepting that, like, that's the only job. And of course, this is something that is elsewhere, like either you're a drug dealer, a basketball player, or a rapper, or you got to stay in the hood. Like, it's in media. It's accepted now. Like, it's not, oh my God. But this is Warren Beatty. This is Shampoo and Bonnie and Clyde and Heaven Can Wait and Dick Tracy. Like, up until his kind of absence from Hollywood over the last, since this movie came out, the last 20 years,
Mm-hmm.
he was one of the biggest movie stars on the planet. Just not even just movie stars, but icons. And he's really just gone under the surface for a while, doing his latest movie or relaxing or whatever. And that must have been the controversy. Like people going, "What's this new movie you're doing about politicians?" Like, just wait, you'll see. And they get to see him rap for like half the screen time.
I mean, I can imagine the world in 1998. People didn't necessarily get it, and I'm sure they were exposed to something that they did not know about at all, or just hadn't really seen. I mean, what is there like?
No,
I don't know. Boys in the Hood probably is like
no,
that.
because that was, I mean, despite that being nominated for an Oscar, that wasn't seen by a lot of people. It's still basically an indie film,
Yeah,
whereas this is 20th Century Fox with a huge director on it, Ennio
and this was still
Morricone.
largely ignored. Yeah, but and Ennio Morricone. Yeah, like how did
Like
he?
he did the score.
I know.
Like
I saw that on there.
like this is a huge movie. Frank Capra the third executive produced and AD'd this. Like this is a big crew, a big cast. Like there's a lot of known names on this, especially now after the fact. And I don't think I've ever heard someone talk about this movie
No,
outside of, oh yeah, that's the movie that Ghetto Superstar is from.
I did not know it existed until you picked it. Like I might have seen a clip out of it in class, but I quickly forgot it too. Just
Hmm.
so I mean, yeah, I mean, this movie was not that big when it came out. I think it got a May release. It didn't even get any Oscars. Did it?
I'm not sure.
I don't
Like
think
I
it got
said,
any nominations at all. Like
it's
it's
something
largely
that
forgotten.
died. Yeah, it didn't make its mark on history, and history's kind of just evaporated whatever it had to hold. And that's what the point of the show, at least for this episode. But even the music here, outside of the score, you got Ice Cube, NWA, you got some Cypress Hill. Like it's good. Like there's a
Oh
lot of
yeah,
good songs. Like it's not niggas with attitude. Like it's not Straight Outta Compton. Like no, it's like 100 miles and running. Like there's deep cuts. Like whoever the music supervisor on this knew what the fuck they were doing. Like to set it in L.A. and South Central and Compton and to be using songs like this. And then on the flip side, you got like Larry King and George Hamilton making cameos. It's fun.
I seriously, there's no Blu-ray of this or anything. Like, I wish I could find more on just the making of this movie, because that Wikipedia page, it's very light. Like,
I didn't even check it out.
as far as content, yeah, all it is just this movie is basically out there, and yeah, that's kind of it. Then Warren Beatty disappeared, and I mean, this movie makes its point, and 20 years later, it's still.
What I hope happens during the publicizing for his next film
Hmm.
is people in the press who are doing the rounds with him bring this film up. Maybe mention like, are you impressed by how much you were able to predict the future with this film, or something like that. And it becomes like there's some kind of notoriety to it, because if it wasn't for the fact that I was looking for a film about the electoral process or politicians that was on streaming, I probably wouldn't have seen this for a while, despite it being in my instant queue. And we got to the end of the episode, so I think it's fitting to finally talk about how this film ends. He gets assassinated, which is something that has to happen.
Yeah.
Like that, especially because there's cutaways in this film to Martin Luther King
Hmm.
and to Malcolm X, and he talks about Huey Newton. Like, you kind of could have guessed that that's where it was going, especially when he is rumple-rousing. Like, there's network stuff here, the movie network, not TV networks, where if you let the masses know about what's going on behind the scenes and you're in a place of power, they have to get rid of you by any means necessary. But you get this quote at the end. You get this like black figure. It's kind of weird. It kind of seems like the role Spike Lee plays in his films,
Yeah, like don't be a
where
ghost, but be a spirit.
exactly, like, you gotta be a spirit. You can't be a ghost.
And that really
Like,
is just a premonition of the future. Is that well, actually, I don't think there's a
can't be no
major
ghost.
figure necessarily, but just the spirit of this message. Yeah, it's kind of carried on through, and it's gotten bigger than ever now. So yeah, hopefully that's a good thing.
I think he was just trying to amplify what was going on around him. I mean, all the black figures that I mentioned, the three
Yeah.
in particular, they were assassinated before this film was
Hmm.
thought up. Like, I'm sure that was in the back of his head when he was creating it, when he was writing this thing, or at least getting the money for it. Like, imagine we had a white politician who's already in office become the next great black leader? Like, what if that happened? Like, how would America, treat him? Oh, it turns out that they would write him in as an independent for the presidential election. Like, it doesn't matter. I think the message of this film is it doesn't matter what color your skin is. If you're trying to, stop oppression, you're going to be treated a certain way regardless. Like, they're going to have to eliminate you.
It's a very cynical ending, but that's the thing. Whatever opposing force you go up against, they're going to try to take you down, and so
or not even try, but because up until
in this case, it's like they are likely to succeed, but right now, I really don't know how to handle it. Like, I'm not quite sure how to approach this movie other than I just do think it's a message being repeated over and over again. It's just the message itself.
Spike Lee does the same thing though.
I know, and that's the thing. I guess Chirac, like, kind of what surprised me was that he was able to make a movie that fast that was informing literally what just happened.
It's like when
if I watched it now, I don't think I would be as into it or have it make that much of an impression on me, but.
Given how
and
much
also, there were other things though going on in Chirac. I think just the language of that movie I really dug. It's just the same rapping over and over again, and it.
What I was gonna say is, given how much of this film is in verse, it kind of is like a little sibling to Chirac.
Yeah.
Except it's not about Chicago. It's not about gun violence. It doesn't have Aristophanes like allegorical nature to it. It's not a reinterpretation of a Greek tragedy. It's not any of that. But just the fact that it's not in spoken word, or at least not the stuff that matters. Like,
they are both satires.
Yeah, but it would be awesome.
I feel like I don't know. Maybe I was taking it far more seriously, just because of the modern climate.
I really hope that the soundtrack for this film uses his raps as like actual tracks. Like, it's like, Ghetto Superstar starts the album, and then you get like NWA song, and then you get Bulworth's first speech.
See, I don't even know what's out there. Like, did they even put out a full soundtrack for that? Well, yeah. Actually,
there's definitely a soundtrack.
Yeah, there should be. There is a soundtrack.
Like Ghetto Superstar is from this movie. They made that song for this film. Like, it was original for it. Like, ODB made a song for a Warren Beatty film. Like, that is crazy. Like, that's where America was at one point, and now only black people make black movies.
I'm looking at the soundtrack right now. I don't see any of his raps on there. Just Dr. Dre, some RZA.
Reissue this soundtrack and put his raps on there. Fox, you can do it. I believe in you. You take risks every once in a while outside the X-Men family. You can do it. I'm just saying. Who do I got to send a message to? I'd buy this thing on vinyl. Just, have a party. Get the nappy dugout. Get the nappy dugout.
Not just that. Put out more on this movie. Like, put out a Blu-ray. Put out a decent making of or an audio commentary. I'm looking at the Wikipedia page. There's very little out there. Like, as far as reception, all it says is the approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes and...
Which means nothing.
The fact that Barack Obama privately once mentioned that he was about to go full Bulworth, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't know. It just says, okay, he apparently said something of talked longingly of, quote, going Bulworth in reference of the film. Whatever the fuck that means. There's so little on here. It's ridiculous.
Well, we said as much as we can about this one. Like I said, I'd buy this for $1. It's on Amazon streaming. If you have Prime, it's on Netflix Instant. You really deserve or owe it to yourself to watch this one like we did. Join the conversation. We'd love some comments on this on either Facebook or Twitter, YouTube, what have you, because it's criminally underseen. And I hope that we can try to change that. And with your support, maybe it can become a trending topic. That'd be really cool this year.
For me, it doesn't have necessarily the impact now, or it doesn't really stir as much controversy as it should. Because, like I said, I'm reading this shit on Twitter and Facebook nearly every day. I feel like I'm personally, I just feel
I'm
like
just saying, when we're in a point in our country where people are getting behind Creed and Straight Outta Compton, and what was the other movie last year that everyone was going gaga over? Isn't there another one?
Probably, but I mean, yeah, here's the thing. As someone, I recently rewatched Creed, and while yes, you can definitely read that underneath in the subtext,
That's a Rocky movie.
It's not, yeah, it's not overtly about those things too.
There's fucking nothing there about that. It's a great boxing movie, and Rocky.
Well, no, it's a movie where there's a black lead, and yet no one cares.
And a black director.
And I'm not looking at skin color. I'm looking at
well, that's what they cared about.
I'm looking at the
though.
person's talent as a director. Like I'm looking at Michael B. Jordan's performance as a performance. That's how I'm judging it. I'm not judging it based on skin color at all, because I don't give a fuck about that. When you watch Nick Fury in Marvel movies, like, does anyone care that he's black? No, you just see Nick Fury. That's the thing. But I mean, this movie, maybe we need to like add a new rating or something, because I wouldn't say I'd buy this for $1, but I'd say it's worth spending some spare change on it. It's
horrible.
I don't know if that sounds horrible. It's worth checking out though. It is.
Yeah,
on
if
Netflix,
you agree with me, my recommendation, say yeah, I recommend it too. Just you don't have to give it the accolade that we've.
No. Like I absolutely think it's worth it. It's just that rating means.
Well, like I said, this one, most people in America or like the first world can watch this for free, because it's hard to find someone that doesn't have Prime or Netflix. And so with that being said, you owe it to yourself to really check this one out. Thanks for listening. We hope it's been a pleasure. If you like this show and you want to hear more of our wonderful voices on a weekly basis, check out 2 Cents. I'll recap what's happened in film, TV, and tech news.
We're also on the titular Dollar Review Show, a spoiler-free critique of new releases or anything we've discovered on our own, whether that be TV, music, etc.
You can find all of our content at dollarreviews.net. Follow us on Twitter or like us on Facebook at Dollar Reviews.
We're available on iTunes, YouTube, TuneIn, Stitcher, and constantly looking to expand to other platforms.
If you listen somewhere we're currently not available, you'd like to contribute some talking points, send a Death to Cinema request, or if you just want to laugh at us, you can do so by reaching out to us on social media or send an email to brian@dollarreviews.net.
Or you can email me as well, steve@dollarreviews.net.
You can follow me personally on Twitter at Brian Gillis, that's BRYONGILLIS, and now you know how to spell the email too, and also under the same name on the lovely site Letterboxd, which acts as my film diary, where I rate films that I'm watching, write the occasional review, and even sometimes compile lists.
You can also find me on Twitter at S_MTX, and also follow my film diary at Letterboxd under the same name, where I log everything I watch, and sometimes write brief reviews.
That's it for this week. Until next time, keep the change. My lip gloss be popping. I'm sitting in my locker, and all the boys keep stopping.